Did you know that 1 in 8 kids in Atlanta will go hungry tonight? Eating healthy, balanced meals is essential for kids to learn and grow. That's why Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield and education nonprofit Common Threads have teamed up to help schools learn about healthier food preparation. In Atlanta, they're joined by the Dream and will provide education, recipes, and knowledge to students and families about healthier options. Visit anthem.com/dream to learn more. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the trade name of Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthcare Plan of Georgia, Inc.
It's time to refuel yourself this afternoon. Grab a freshly brewed bean-to-cup crazy good coffee. Build your best blend and customize with our wide variety of creamers and toppings. Get what you need to get back on track today. Wherever you're headed in Atlanta, Racetrack's here for whatever gets you going. And you'll be here before you know it. We're never far away. You'll find us just off Atlanta Highway. Racetrack. Whatever gets you going.
Welcome to the Giants' Greatest Play Bracket Podcast, brought to you by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. I am John Schmeelk, joined by the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa. We have our finals. All 4 brackets, the voting has been completed, and we have our final 4 plays for Giant fans to vote for their greatest play in Giants history. Go to giants.com/bracket to check out all the results and to place your vote for your favorite play. Bob, we have our 4 plays here that fans can choose from to nominate and to choose for their greatest play in Giants history. The 4 plays, we have, no surprise, the helmet catch, Eli Manning to David Tyree in Super Bowl 42 to help sustain a drive that eventually gives the Giants the lead and the victory. You have Victor Cruz's 99-yard touchdown against the Jets, which helped send the Giants to the playoffs in 2011. You have the Eli Manning, Mario Manningham catch down the sideline on the first play of the Giants' game-winning drive in the fourth quarter of Super Bowl 46. And then you have Odell Beckham's unbelievable athletic grab, one-handed against the Cowboys in prime time. Those are the 4 plays that Giant fans can vote for the greatest play in Giants history.
Yeah, and I think 3 of the 4 are obvious, right? The helmet catch, Cruz, and Eli Manning. I mean, to Mario Manningham. But it's interesting because, John, I think there's a little age bias in the blue bracket as far as Odell Beckham Jr.'s catch winning that bracket. Now, greatest plays in Giants history. Well, certainly it is a great play, and it is an amazing athletic feat, and it's something that sent Odell Beckham Jr. from being a really good wide receiver with the New York Giants to superstardom in an instant, right? LeBron's tweeting, everything, it went viral. And what he was able to do individually while he was being interfered with, to catch the ball along the sideline, get both feet in, and actually score a touchdown and never lose control of the ball, is one of the great athletic feats that you'll ever see in the NFL. The reason why, though, I wouldn't vote this as the greatest play in this bracket is because I think when we're talking about greatest plays, you're not just talking about greatest individual efforts. You're talking about greatest plays in Giants history, and you have to put everything kind of into context. That play didn't help the Giants win the game. That play didn't help the Giants make the playoffs. So, hey, it was a great play. Michael Strahan made a great play in 1999 in Philadelphia with the pick 6 at the end of the season against Doug Peterson. An unbelievable play for a defensive end. But it was a season of non-playoff. It was, and that was in overtime to win. For me, the Hakeem Nicks Hail Mary was in the Final Four in this. And that was a great play. But there's an element of luck to that. And also, for some reason, the Green Bay Packers, it wasn't like Nicks made this unbelievable catch. It's like all the Packers mistimed their jumper, stayed away from the ball. He caught it relatively easy.
He did.
It's a significant play because it's a divisional playoff round, and the Giants went on to go win Super Bowl 46.
And by the way, when you watch the Packers walk off the field after that Hail Mary catch, you could tell that game was over. They were not going to come back and win that game.
We could feel it in Lambeau Field.
Absolutely.
The final score doesn't indicate how much the Giants dominated that game. See, for me, the Bavaro carrying the 49ers, here's the reason why that could have beaten the catch. The Niners were established now as a Super Bowl team. The Giants were on the rise after 84 and then losing to the Bears in 85. And the Giants were now becoming one of the big dogs in the NFC with the Bears, the 49ers, and the Washington Commanders, I guess we'll call them that,
Sure.
just for correctness.
The team that played in Washington back
Yes.
then. How about that?
And this was like you're down 17-0 in prime time on Monday Night Football, and the road might have to go through these guys to get to your first Super Bowl. And you're down 17-0 at halftime in a season in which you went 14-2. And Bavaro's catch and run and carrying of Niners is epic. It lives till this day. You see it replayed all the time. And it spurred this team on. And not only did it spur the team on, but the Giants came back and won this game in San Francisco, which kept their streak going during the regular season of wins and gave them all the confidence in the world that if they played the Niners in the postseason, that they would handle them, which they did. I think this is a great play in Giants history that spurred the team on to their first Super Bowl.
And that was the play that the catch knocked out in the finals. But to me, Bob, and I know you agree with me, it was the play that the catch knocked out in the Final Four that I thought was going to win this bracket when we put it together, the Mark Ingram 3rd and 13 in Super Bowl 25.
Yeah, I thought that this bracket, when I looked at it initially, I said 3rd and 13 and Bavaro 49ers will square off for the winner of this bracket. And I said to myself, I'll have no issue whichever one won it.
Agreed.
Now, let's go to 3rd and 13 for our younger fans out there. So, Super Bowl 25, the Giants had to play a certain way. We all know the stories about how Bill Belichick, the defensive coordinator, said, we got to let Thurman Thomas get 100 yards. Their fast break offense, it's too much. Boom, 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 boom. So the Giants are trailing 12-3 late in the first half. And they go on this fast drive by Giants standards. 3 minutes and 40-something seconds.
324, 10 plays, 87 yards.
Yeah, that's very un-Giant-like to go down the field that fast at that time. So they go down the field, and Stephen Baker, the touchdown maker, gets the touchdown catch. So the Giants go to the locker room down 12-10. Come out, they get the ball to start the third quarter. And, John, it's a 9-minute and 29-second drive.
Yep, 14 plays, 75 yards.
And the 3rd and 13, the Giants have the ball 3rd and 13 at the Buffalo 32-yard line. Now, it's not like Ingram got open and got the first down. They threw it underneath to Mark Ingram, who danced and juked and had people hitting him and grabbing him, and he's pulling a potential tackler and dragging him along, hopping around on one leg to get the first down for the Giants. Now, later in that drive, Otis Anderson would score a touchdown. The Giants would go up 17-12 at this point. If Ingram gets tackled anywhere short of the sticks, let's say he gets 7 yards or 8 yards, Matt Barr's coming out to kick a 41, 42-yard field goal that would have put the Giants up by only 1 point, 13-12. Plus, it would have cut short the drive, and Buffalo would have gotten the ball and got their offense back on the field. But because this drive played out so long, basically from the end of the second quarter to the end of this drive in the third quarter, the Giants used 14 minutes of game clock. That's almost an entire quarter of the Super Bowl where Buffalo's offense and Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed and James Lofton were just sitting on the sidelines watching. And then you couple the halftime ceremony and everything that happened in between. It was well over an hour and 15 minutes before Buffalo's offense ever ran another snap. This Ingram play, from an individual standpoint, a heart standpoint, important strategic standpoint, to me, this play should have gone against Bavaro, and if I was voting, I would have voted for the Ingram play because it took an unbelievable individual effort. Just like Odell had an unbelievable individual effort, Ingram's heart and unbelievable effort helped the Giants win Super Bowl 25. So to me, that play should have won this bracket.
Yeah, and it might be a little strong to say that the Giants were conceding, not getting the first down there, and they're going to kick the field goal, take the lead, and be happy about it. But when it's 3rd and 13, and you throw a 6-yard pass, and by the way, he caught it standing still. He's not catching it on the move. You're kind of throwing that pass to kick the field goal, but it was Ingram's individual effort that let them get the first down, score the touchdown. Remember, the Giants only win this game by 1 point, 20-19. So that touchdown, the field goal there, Bob, that's the difference between a win and a loss.
Absolutely. And then as the game wore on, Buffalo somehow figured out that, they're letting us run. And then they finally did, and then Everson Walls made a big tackle, which set up the Norwood field goal from wherever that missed, wide right. But to me, the Ingram third and 13 here, with all due respect to Odell's individualness was unbelievable. But Ingram's selflessness and his desire to win and not just settle for the 6-yard game and a more makeable field goal from Matt Barr, but like, heck, I'm going to go get this first down. That epitomized that team, which is why they were Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, Odell's catch might go down as one of the best individual feats in terms of catching the football in the history of the league, let alone the New York Football Giants. But it's the context and the meaning of the play in Giants history that makes the difference there. All right, Bob, let's jump over to the red bracket. Eli Manning to Mario Manningham, no surprise, sideline catch in Super Bowl 46, and that helped set up the game-winning score late there, Bob. And, we talk about the individual feat and the difficulty of the Odell catch. This, to me, is the precision play in the final, in our final championship group here, where it had to be a perfect pass by Eli, had to be a perfect catch by Manningham. You couldn't bobble this for a second. He had to get his feet in. The safety's a foot away, storming over from the middle of the field. Everything had to be done perfectly in terms of timing and execution to make this play work, which helped set up the Giants' game-winning touchdown in Super Bowl 46.
Yeah, it was the drive starter right out of the gate. I thought the Giants were the better team going into that Super Bowl. There was that famous Vince Wilfork where he drew a penalty in the second quarter. And even he laughed about it on mic that he faked out the officials because the Giants were really controlling that part of the game. But then New England found their footing, and this game was, it was epic again. Look, the flea flicker, Jim Burt's hit on Montana, Plaxico's overtime winner in Philly. Those were all great plays. But I think this play is significant in a lot of ways because sometimes, more from a national media standpoint than a local fan or media standpoint, I don't think people really remember how Eli Manning carried the 11 Giants with his arm. And the fourth quarter comebacks, they didn't run the ball during the regular season very well at all. And this throw kind of is almost like the cherry on top of the sundae because he scans the field. We had just heard Belichick talking to his defense in the NFL film stuff. Don't let Nix and Cruz. So he knew that was probably his best option. And he puts it in the perfect spot. Cover 2 beater where the safety's coming over and he hits him right in stride. And I don't want to take anything away from Mario Manningham either because you're right, John. It's coming in. He's making the catch. He's getting his feet in as his body is already leaning out of bounds.
And he gets lit up by the safety.
And the ball never moves. It never moves one fraction. And, all the Patriots are like, incomplete. They're on the sideline. And then all of a sudden you see the replay. I remember we were watching the replay off our monitor and then also in the stadium. It's like, wow, he actually pulled this off.
Well, remember, and you made the call live. You're waiting to call it a catch for the official to come in and signal catcher incomplete because it was so close to sideline. You couldn't tell watching the play live.
Yeah, and we always get on the officials, but they nailed that one, thank God. But yeah, to me that's a kind of an easy winner in the red bracket.
Yeah, and it knocked off Plex's game winner in Super Bowl 42. Obviously, a super important play. It's the game-winning touchdown, but it was just such an easy catch and throw. Obviously, a great move by Burris to put the move on the cornerback. There's the whole backstory where they knew they were going to cover slant based on game film, so that play was going to be open, but. Obviously an important play, but just the precision and difficulty of the Eli Manningham sideline catch certainly brings home the victory there. All right, let's go to the gray bracket, Bob. And there was no, to me, obvious play in this one when
A single moment can change the course of your business forever.
I'm like this 22-year-old kid going up against one of the biggest companies in the world.
I was going to need to raise more capital, and I was going to need to be able to do it quickly.
But the entrepreneurs who power through adversity have a special name around here. We call them the Unshakables. I'm Ben Walter, CEO of Chase for Business.
And I'm Tanya Nebo, a lawyer and consultant to entrepreneurs.
These are the everyday, regular people who decided to take a risk and start a business.
Because with great risk, you took all the losses.
$2 million.
Comes great reward.
It was their best sale of all time. It literally crushed their website. The website shut off. Everything sold out.
This is The Unshakables from Chase for Business and Ruby Studio. Listen on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Put this together, and we were trying to figure out which play was going to come out. There wasn't a Super Bowl game-winning catch. There wasn't some NFC Championship game, game-winning touchdown. There's another play in there that's kind of important from a championship game. But it ends up going to Victor Cruz, the 99-yard touchdown on Christmas Eve against the Jets to help put the Giants into the playoffs. It knocks off Jason Sehorn's pick against Philly in the playoffs, which I'll compare to the Beckham catch, where just the sheer difficulty of the play is kind of what vaulted this, but it's also a playoff game that they ended up winning, which is also important.
I mean, look, from an athletic standpoint, the Beckham catch and the Sehorn pick six against Philadelphia might be the two greatest athletic plays in the history of the Giants.
Of course, that's in a playoff game and a win, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's in a playoff game in a win at Giants Stadium against your rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles, which in fact, the next week you beat the Vikings and you went to they have an NFC Championship ring. The catch, Odell's catch, has nothing other than the catch. So
correct.
Again, don't get me started on that.
And the other two plays in the Final Four, Lawrence Tynes' game winner against the Packers in the title game in 2007. We know the weather conditions, the difficulty of that kick. And then the Matt Barr game winner against the 49ers. So a couple of special teams plays getting in the Final Four this particular bracket.
Yeah, I mean, the football was as hard as a rock. We know with the wind chill, it was minus 21 and all that other stuff. And Tynes' kick, still the longest kick to that end of the field at Lambeau Field. So yeah, they're all special. But here's why the Cruz play deserves, in my opinion, to win this bracket. And this bracket had a lot of legacy things in it too. You know, it had some Ed Danowski from the title game in the 30s and several others, Andy Robustelli, but
Y.A. Tittle, Frank Gifford.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great plays. But here's where voting in these kind of situations, a little age bias. But the thing about Cruz was, again, the Giants were not, at that point in the season, the Giants weren't running the ball. It wasn't until later in that game against the Jets when Bradshaw ran over the safety that suddenly the Giants' run game kind of came to life. And I kind of take a look at this, and the Giants were doing nothing offensively. I mean, they were stagnant. And in fact, the Jets had the edge. If it was a boxing match and you're watching that game, the Jets actually, you would have given them rounds 1 and 2 if you were judging a fight. They were kind of dictating the terms. And once Cruz goes 99 yards, changes everything. And by the way, he made a couple moves. It's not like he ran a go route and Eli threw it to him for about 45 yards in the air and Cruz just took off. He juked, made a couple people miss, then had to hurdle a guy 40 yards downfield. But for me, the reason why this is a proper winner is because although it was a regular season game, it was a playoff game. Because the Giants, once they won that game in Dallas to keep their playoff hopes alive, every game they're on in were playoff games. One more loss ends your season.
Yeah.
And that set up then the following week and the home game against Dallas to decide the NFC East. So I think that's a very proper winner in that bracket.
Two other plays, by the way, in this bracket I want to bring up, Bob, very quickly. Another play in that 2011 season, the Jason Pierre-Paul blocked field goal against Dallas, because that Cruz play against the Jets doesn't mean anything unless JPP doesn't block that Dan Bailey, right? Dan Bailey kicking against Dallas. At that point, he had made like 30 straight field goals. Like, it was going to go in. And if he doesn't block that kick, they lose to Dallas. They're probably not even in playoff contention when they get to that Jets game. So that was a very key play earlier in the year.
Right, and not to mention JPP was dominant in that game.
Yeah.
He was unstoppable. The blocked field goal was the icing on the cake. But I think the other thing about that game was, how about Eli and the Giants' offense putting up a barrage of points in the last 5 minutes of the game?
It's true.
So Cruz's play is an individual play that's wrapped in this team on the way to a championship. So I could see why that was a winner.
And then the other play, and the Cruz play actually knocked this out in the second round of this particular bracket. And this play doesn't get talked about enough to me. And we have the Matt Bar game winner in the mix here. Well, how about the play that set that up, right, Bob? The Eric Howard forced fumble, where the Niners are running out the clock here. And if Eric Howard doesn't force this fumble, the Giants don't win that game. That is how often do you see, guys, when you're watching a game late in any era of football, where a team, all they got to do is run the ball 3 times and get 1 first down? It's one thing to force a punt and get a stop, right? It's another to strip the ball, force a fumble, and put your kicker in position to win the game where you don't have to get a first down. That is a hugely important play in Giants history. They don't have a Super Bowl without it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eric Howard forced fumble. And remember something, Roger Craig was as secure a ball carrier as there was in the NFL. He was not a guy that fumbled a lot. Montana had been knocked out of the game at this point. Steve Young is in. They're being conservative. I think the Eric Howard forced fumble recovered by Lawrence Taylor is a victim of just where they got put in the bracket.
Yeah.
I think if they're on the other side of the bracket, that plays on the other side of the bracket where Barr's field goal made it to the Final Four of that bracket, my guess is this play makes it. But it just wound up on the wrong side of the bracket, and it wound up against Victor Cruz in the 99-yard touchdown.
By the other big defensive play, the AP screen pass play is in this too.
Yeah,
right?
I'm surprised. I mean, I thought when I was looking at the bracket, I thought that the Antonio Pierce play would have trumped the Tynes kick because they're on the same side of the bracket.
Same game.
And without Antonio Pierce's play, we might not ever get that kick. But, again, the conditions in Lambeau, but the Antonio Pierce play, to me, is one of the great defensive plays in Giants history.
Well, in fact, you can make the argument, Bob, that maybe the 2 most significant defensive plays in Giants history in terms of going to a Super Bowl are in this bracket.
Right.
Like, you get much bigger than the Howard play and the AP plays in terms of defensive plays, getting your team to the Super Bowl. Those are, I mean, I think probably in all the brackets, those might be the 2 biggest defensive plays.
I agree. But I thought the AP would make the Final Four because if he doesn't make that play on that screen pass in the flat with 3 blockers in front of him, it's wide open to the end zone, and the Giants might not win that 07 NFC Championship game.
All right, the final bracket, Bob, the white bracket. And the reason we made this the white bracket is because the Giants were wearing their white jerseys when
that's why. I was wondering how the color schemes got there.
Yeah, we had some conversations. Some of them were tough because there's not many, they're not wearing gray jerseys and any of these. So that was kind of like the last one. I just make it gray. But the other ones, we tried to match up the uniform color a little bit with some of the big plays. So you have the helmet catch coming out of this, Eli Manning to David Tyree, a play that, again, sustained the drive, kind of similar to the Mark Ingram play, right? It wasn't the game-winning. It wasn't the scoring drive, play on that drive, but it kept the drive alive to set up a score later. Just an unbelievable catch by David Tyree after Eli Manning. It might be his best sack escape in his career, and he saves it for the Super Bowl to set up the game-winning touchdown. Not a surprise. That comes out of the white bracket, but it did have some great competition. You have some really iconic Giant plays here. You have
all defense, by the way.
Yeah, the Leonard, we talk about big time defensive plays, right? The Leonard Marshall hit on Joe Montana that knocked him out of the game and really changed his career in a lot of ways. Joe Montana with the way he got hit on that play. The George Martin 78-yard pick six, and then the LT pick six on Thanksgiving. A lot of iconic Giant defensive plays there, but they lose out to the helmet catch in the Final Four of this bracket.
Yeah, I mean the LT play is great. It was not the brightest period in Giants history, but he made an unbelievable play, and it was Lawrence Taylor. And I can see why it made it as far as it made it. The George Martin play, here, I'll put this into context again. In the 86 season, the Broncos, led by head coach Dan Reeves and John Elway, were considered one of the top teams in the AFC, if not the top team. And the Giants were considered one of the top teams in the NFC. And when they met at Giant Stadium, there are a lot of people going into the game that were billing this as a heavyweight fight, and this could be a potential Super Bowl matchup, which it eventually did, and the Giants won Super Bowl 21. I think George Martin's tip And then, his athleticism. George Martin scored a lot of defensive touchdowns in his Giant career. And I think that was a very significant moment from a psychological standpoint that whoever the AFC is going to bring in front of us in 86, we're winning. So I think that play rightly deserves where it made it to. And the Marshall hit on Montana, talk about individual efforts. You talk about Ingram on the 3rd and 13 play. I mean, Leonard Marshall was blocked twice and was not completely to the ground. And he crawled and got back up and stayed in the play to obliterate Montana. Now, I think if that play happens in 2022 or 23 or 24, it's flags coming out and it's going to be roughing the passer. But under the rules of that era and the way the game was played, but it was Leonard Marshall's effort to get off the ground twice, to get up and not quit on the play, that to me makes that a really special play. But the helmet catch is, and you think about the helmet catch, as Rodney Harrison is pulling Tyree down, I think if he pulls him down to his left or to his right and not straight on him, I'm not sure Tyree hangs on to the ball. But he pulled him down on top of his body, which broke the fall, which kept Tyree's elbow from really hitting against the ground.
And kept the ball from hitting the ground, too.
Correct. I think if he slams him down sideways, I'm not sure if Tyree's going to be able to keep that ball secured against his helmet. But you know what? He did. And all the other stuff is just guessing. The fact is he did it. Great play.
I still remember us watching the replay of that in the booth of that Super Bowl, and we're literally sitting there like, all right, well, they're going to show a replay where the ball hit the ground, right? Like, we're just waiting for the right angle to show up for them to, call it an incomplete pass, and it never came. And we're like, oh, my gosh, he really actually pinned that to the helmet, and it didn't hit the ground. Can you believe what we just saw? It was unbelievable.
Can you believe I said wide open Tyree?
And by the way, just for the record, when he does throw the pass, there wasn't anyone near Tyree in the middle of the field. That's why Eli threw it to him. The problem is that the ball hung in the air for about 8 seconds,
right,
and it gave Rodney Harrison time to come over and almost knock the football away.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny because and Kevin Gilbride did confirm via coach's tape that he was wide open. But you know what happened was, sometimes in the Super Bowl, you don't get the best locations. We were behind the play.
Yeah.
We were in the corner of the end zone. So it's all going away from us at this point. So when Eli first takes the snap and drops back and avoids some pressure, I can see the receivers in their routes. And Tyree's running wide open down the middle of the field.
Wide open.
It's almost like the Patriots just weren't going to cover him. So I in my head, I'm like, oh, my God, Tyree's open. But I'm calling Eli avoiding the sacks. And then when he heaves it down the middle, I say wide open, obviously with the arc on the ball. And by the time Eli didn't get to it for about 3 seconds after Tyree was wide open because Eli was playing, Matador, trying to avoid defenders. And all of a sudden I blurted out wide open. And at that point I'm like, he's not wide open. But he was.
But there was a reason Eli threw him the football. Because he didn't throw it to him when he was covered. He saw him as he's escaping that he was open, starts to throw, and then Harrison makes his way over there.
Yeah, and then everybody decides to not block.
Oh, sure. No one likes breaking down that play more than Sean O'Hara pointing out Chris Nee just shoveling and pedaling his feet with nobody in front of him for about 4 seconds on the play. Loves doing it.
Kudos to Mike Carey for not blowing the whistle.
Yeah, handful of jersey trying to pull Eli down, and he let him play.
Anyway, it was fun. It was a fun exercise to go through all this.
Yeah, so the finals, Bob, real quick. To me, this is going to come down to, do you like the improbable, unbelievable Tyree pinning the ball to his helmet and Eli escaping the play, or do you prefer the precision of the Eli to Manningham? Everything had to be perfect in order to complete the pass. I love the Cruz play. I love the Beckham catch, but the regular season plays. We're talking about 2 Super Bowl plays that required a lot of skill and precision in one case and just an unbelievable physical effort in the other to set up game-winning plays in the Super Bowl. I imagine that's going to be the 2 plays that most fans are choosing from here, and I'll be interested to see which way they go, given how the plays are similar in some ways, but also, I think, very different in terms of why they were great.
Yeah, and I think my guess is that the helmet catch is going to win because it was just so extraordinary.
Yeah.
But we should remind everybody when they vote on this, it's not brackets now.
Correct.
Right. It's going to be these 4 plays, and then you vote on what you think is the greatest play in Giants history. There's no
matchups.
No matchups here. It's not going to be one play versus another and another. This is one shot now. The 4 will be listed. You pick the one you think is the greatest.
And to do it, go to Giants.com/bracket. Thank you for joining us on our 5th and final edition of the Greatest Plays Bracket Podcast, brought to you by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. For Bob Papa, I'm John Schmeelk. Thank you so much for participating in this, Giant fans, and letting us know what you thought was the greatest play in Giants history. And again, go to Giants.com/bracket to cast your final vote. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Because you want to hear bacon and eggs on your outdoor griddle, not the scraping of rust. Introducing the Weber Slate Rust-Resistant Griddle. Stays ready, not rusty, with a carbon steel cooktop, pre-seasoned and ready to cook on right out of the box. The Weber Slate heats evenly edge to edge up to 500 degrees. All you'll hear is the gasp of amazement from friends and family when you serve the food. Cooking with the Weber Slate Rust-Resistant Griddle just sounds delicious and tastes even better.
At Cocoa Beach, boredom doesn't stand a chance. Cocoa Beach is your authentic Florida beach town, packed with attractions to make your vacation the funnest yet. Whether you're catching waves, strolling along the iconic pier, or savoring delicious seafood, Cocoa Beach has something for everyone. A laid-back charm and lively atmosphere make Cocoa Beach your next unforgettable vacation. Explore the fun side of Orlando, Cocoa Beach on Florida's Space Coast. Visit LegendaryCocoaBeach.com. That's LegendaryCocoaBeach.com.